I'm going to start by sharing a poem I wrote about Ottawa Carleton Detention Center. I broke the law, so the law broke my spirit. I still have a voice somewhere, but now no one can hear it. I once had sanity, but now I'm nowhere near it. I stole something, so the law stole my soul. They expect me to lay down silently and do what I'm told, while I'm boxed in concrete, so lonely and cold. I unlawfully entered a dwelling, so the law unlawfully entered my brain. They took all my clothing so that we could all look the same. They took my distinguishing characteristics so that I am just a number and a last name. They took my values and my privacy so that I have no shame. And this humiliation is the rehabilitation they claim, so they could build more super jails like franchise food chains. I assaulted someone, so the law assaulted my pride. My skin color requires no jury. I've already been tried. And if there was an electric chair, I'd be strapped down and fried. But instead, I'm left to serve extended sentences inside. So long that I forget what laws I failed to abide. And like a zombie, my body keeps going through the motions long after my brain has died. I obstructed justice, so the laws made my path obstructed. I lost all hope since my livelihood and confidence were abducted. Now there's nothing left to do except to do what is instructed. I robbed, so the law robbed me of my optimism. Now I have no rights, cannot make my own basic decisions. Like an animal, neglected and left to rot in these dirty prisons. They wanted to guarantee my likelihood of recidivism. I trafficked drugs, so the law trafficked me into slavery, to rid me of my happiness, independence, and bravery, with no consideration for the circumstances that brought me here, because the law doesn't favor me. I uttered false documents, so the law uttered me false lines about being innocent till proven guilty and about how justice is blind. I admitted I had a problem, and help is what I expected to find. But instead I lose my freedom, lose my faith, and lose my mind. I was in the possession of illegal goods, so the laws put me in their possession, treating me horribly, bringing me deep into depression. Taking away my very existence was supposed to teach me a lesson. I caused a disturbance, so the laws made me mentally disturbed. I'm no longer a person, I have no identity, my past has been blurred. I'm reduced to nothing, then kicked to the curb, expected to function in society after the inhumane treatment I've endured. I committed a crime, so the law committed me to segregation, so that I could know the true meaning of helplessness and frustration, and I could experience every possible human rights violation. Their intentions were to destroy my mind and destroy my motivation until my physical and mental health were both in the state of deterioration. I breached the conditions of my probation, so the law breached my trust. They lied when they said they were here to serve and protect us. Their only goal is to fill more seats in that prison transfer bus and use cruel methods of punishment until our personalities adjust. I was publicly intoxicated, so the law gave me a very public persecution, so the media could portray me as the problem and the law as the solution. But what they don't broadcast is the prison living conditions like a cave person pre-evolution. I failed to keep the peace because the law fails me every day. They tell me 2 wrongs don't make a right and crime doesn't pay, but I only become more institutionalized with every jail stay. I lose all my self-worth till I see no other way. My past prevents me from having a future, and that's supposed to be okay. I broke the law, so the law breaks me down, and all I have lost outweighs what little enlightenment I have found. Jail doesn't ever work for first-time offenders, so definitely not second, third time around. How can I learn from my mistakes when my head is chained and bound, and my fate is left in the biased hands of a judge and a crown? How could I ever hear my calling in life when they've muted the sound? How could I stay afloat in society when I've been encouraged to drown? How could I smile in the face of hard times when I spent so long in a frown? And how could I climb the ladder of success when it's planted on shaky ground? So I've done some time at the Ottawa Carleton Detention Center. It's a truly horrific place, but building a new prison in Kemptville and other cages across the province, including here in Brockville, won't make things better for imprisoned people or improve our collective well-being and safety. A prison is a prison is a prison. When I was younger, I didn't need a cage. I needed support. I came from a childhood of extreme abuse and dysfunction. I lived in filth and squalor, often sleeping on the floor, no food in the house, being called the N-word by my mother more than my given name. And I experienced the same thing in adulthood through our correctional system. MPP Steve Clark and Premier Ford's government claim that the new prison will be rehabilitative. But prison doesn't rehabilitate, it never has. Because if it rehabilitated, we wouldn't need to keep building more prisons. It also claims that it will create jobs. Officials from the Ministry of the Solicitor General have said that Kemptville Prison will be for people serving sentences of 2 years minus a day from Ottawa, and many of the staff will be from the Ottawa Carleton Detention Center. So I have some questions for Steve Clark and Doug Ford about all this. First of all, if we know that OCDC is a hellhole run by staff who regularly dehumanize and harm prisoners, how will building another abusive prison run by the same staff from an abusive jail translate into imprisoned people leaving the institution better than they entered it? Is the new prison really about rehabilitating imprisoned people, or is it about rehabilitating the reputation of the Solicitor General and jail guards so that they could claim their work is about helping people and making us safe? Second, is it moral to try to sell Kemptville residents, who are mostly white, on the idea that it will economically benefit from having a prison in their backyard filled with prisoners shipped from Ottawa who are mostly Black, Indigenous, and racialized? Removing people from their communities and confine them to spaces to make a dollar doesn't sound like community safety. It sounds like the reservation. It sounds like slavery. And third, how does displacing people from Ottawa to a prison, let alone one in Kemptville, improve our collective well-being and safety? People need to stay connected with their families. People need to plan their release from prison and connect with community services. Shipping people down the 416 to Kemptville will only make keeping families together in our communities safer more difficult. As a member of the Criminalization and Punishment Education Project, and as a new grandmother who wants to see her grandchild live in a community that is well supported with great schools and access to basic necessities rather than a province that invests hundreds of millions in new cages, I urge you to say no. No to Ontario prison expansion, and yes to equity and supports. We need to build communities, not cages. Thank you.